Hey guys, and welcome back to our channel. My name is Samantha.
I'm Dan.
And we are on a surrogacy journey helping someone bring their baby to this world. And today we wanted to talk all about how I don't like this word, but how I convinced you to be okay with surrogacy.
How you bribed me into
How
it.
I bribed you into allowing me to be a surrogate.
You didn't even give me a choice, you just forced me.
Stop.
I'm just kidding. You just said, hey, I'm pregnant with somebody else's baby.
Anyway, if you don't already follow us, you can hit us up on all social media platforms at We Are Dan and Sam. And don't forget to like and subscribe to this video to stay updated on our journey and any other insight that we share and just our life in general. So today I wanted to bring Dan in and ask him certain questions because I get a lot of messages like, hey, I really want to do surrogacy, but my boyfriend's not supportive, my husband doesn't want me to do it. How'd you convince Dan? And I right away say, well, I didn't convince him because I really felt like you had to come on board yourself and be ready and willing to be on this journey with me because it required a lot of you too.
Yeah.
And so I never wanted it to feel like I was making him do it or I was like forcing you or convincing you to do it. Little backstory, back in 2018, we had our second child, Ember, in March, and every month after we had her, we didn't really want another one.
Yeah.
But I had this desire to get pregnant again into labor, oddly enough.
Well, she's kind of crazy where she enjoys labor and delivery.
It was...
And she's like, I miss being in labor and delivery. And I'm like, I do not at all.
It's just empowering, like, what my body's able to do. Thankfully, I had great pregnancies and I had great labors, and Dan was so supportive through both of them. But yeah, I wanted that again. And since we didn't want any more children of our own, I thought about it and then had a friend actually mention it to me as well, which I felt like was confirmation. Like, why don't you do surrogacy? And I was like, oh yeah. At the point, or at that time, I knew nothing about surrogacy other than the Baby Mama movie, which is a lot of misrepresentation. And
Hopefully.
so I did my own research for a few days, and then one night I was like, babe, what do you think about surrogacy? Like me carrying a baby for someone else. What did you think? Like, what was your first thought when
I was confused, I guess. I didn't really understand
what it was.
Surrogacy was, what the process was, like whose genetics are, the baby, like, I don't know. There was just a lot of confusion and questions.
I think his first response was, well, we're not going to give our baby away. And I explained to him there's two different types of surrogates. There's traditional, where it is the carrier's egg. If it's a same-sex couple or the couple doesn't have viable eggs, then they would use the surrogate's egg as part of the embryo. Or there's a gestational carrier, which doesn't use my egg or his sperm or anything, and so it's all the intended parent's genetics. So I explained that's what it would be. It would just be their embryo. I'm simply just carrying the baby. And I think we talked a little bit more about it.
Yeah.
Maybe asked a few more questions.
It was probably about a week of thinking about it and praying about it. And I mean, when you first presented it, you were like, I feel like the Lord's laying this on my heart. And that's where I was like, well, I mean, then it's definitely something we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
It's not just like a closed door. So we talked about it, prayed about it. You showed me a bunch of articles and information on it.
Because I think you did bring up a question like, how will you handle it emotionally? And that was my concern too for myself. And so I showed him.
Oh, that was my number one concern. Once I realized that it was somebody else's genetics or DNA creating this baby. And I think once I was at peace with that part of it, I was worried for you. Like, hey, emotionally, are you going to have like separation anxiety, like postpartum stuff? And that was for sure the highest worry on my list about it. So
because I want to say at that time we were in Colorado. I had two little ones. The Lord's timing is perfect because I was going through a little bit of like anxiety.
Yeah.
I wasn't like medically like on any medication or whatever, but I think I was just overwhelmed in life with a lot going on that that's a valid concern for you to be like, I don't know how you'll handle this.
Well,
But-
it's just like the whole process of it. I mean, you're connected to the baby, you're growing this child inside of you, you're feeling it kick. And so that part of it, you know, your body is thinking, I'm pregnant. And then all of a sudden to not have a newborn baby, I was worried like about how your body would respond.
Yeah.
But again, we did some reading and some praying. You showed me articles about people and how you go into it with the mindset that it's not yours from the beginning. And so you're continually reassuring yourself that that's the case.
Yeah.
Like, this baby is for somebody else. I'm just helping them.
Yeah.
And so that was a big part of it for me,
Yeah.
was making sure that you were going to be okay at the end of it all.
Yeah. So we talked about it, prayed about it for a week, and then one day he was on his way home from work. And I want to say you called me saying you're coming home, but you were like, let's do it. And I'm like, let's do it. He was like, surrogacy. I'm like, okay. So I think I got really excited. You probably came home and we started researching, or maybe I prematurely researched surrogacy agencies at the time.
Knowing you probably had
I probably had it
everything
all.
lined up
Had a
already,
plan.
just waiting for me to say
Transfer
yes.
date, delivery. And so, yeah, it was, I would say it was prayer, but research, and then also just like sharing my heart that I did feel led to do this, that, you know, it was something that I desired to do and be a part of. But I didn't want to have to convince him and want to make him do something, because it did require a lot. I mean, looking back now, it did, but I knew going into it I would need his full support. I mean, pregnancy in general is hard and emotional and hard on me, and requires, you know, if you do have a husband or a significant other to take care of you and to be there when you're emotional, and, you know, having 2 kids as well, raising them, like, I knew I needed your full support. And so I wanted to wait for that point.
Yeah.
Until I had that. And for those of you who have messaged and said, hey, I don't have my husband's full support or my significant other's full support, like, but I still want to move forward, I really encourage you to just take some time, walk through it together, because it's a lot. And without him, I would not have been able to do this journey. Not only physically, like, he did 69 out of the 70 shots for me, because I was like deathly scared of needles. So without that, but also like emotionally, I've had a few, you know, just hormonal days.
Altogether, it's not an individual journey. Like,
Yeah.
when you have a significant other or a spouse or fiance,
pregnant.
boyfriend, whatever, I mean, you really should have their support throughout this. And going into it, I feel like it would almost be selfish to not make sure that they were on board on the front end.
Yeah.
Like, if you had come to me and said, hey, I want to do this, and I said, you know, I just really don't think this is a good idea, and then you went forward with it, that would have probably caused some serious issues.
Yeah, in our
for us.
marriage
And so
too.
to have that support, and like you said, I mean, you had to get shots every single night, and it's like, even when you didn't want to, or helping with moving the kids around, getting to appointments on time.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah.
And then just to almost have a sounding board too, because there were times when we were meeting people that could have been potential intended parents that we would partner with, and
It's like, do you feel good about it? Do I feel good about it?
yeah, we just had to be on the same page about it. And there's just a lot of things, even after you say, yes, we're going to do this, there's a lot of things that you guys need to agree on.
Yeah.
And
when it comes to termination, you know, breastfeeding, delivery, or like birth plan, there's a lot. And, you know, to also make note, if you don't have, you know, husband or significant other, if you're a single mom doing this, which I know, I feel like a high percentage of the surrogates that I do know are single parents, which is still great that they're able to give life to these families. But if you don't have a significant other, have somebody, a close friend, a family member who can be that support for you.
Yeah.
Not everyone's going to agree with what you're doing. Thankfully, we do have a lot of support from our friends and family, but know that not everyone's going to agree with you. But to have those 1 or 2 people who fully support you, see your heart in this, are, you know, with you through the journey and helping you through it, it's really helpful to have somebody like that.
And there's going to be
It's a lot.
negativity too. Like, there's going to be people who
Don't
say
understand.
things that are extremely rude online, or
Or just in your personal
you know,
life.
in your personal life, or they doubt the process. They don't understand why you would do something like that. And
So to have
again,
him
that's
be
where
like-
you have to have someone who can support you and can be like a cheerleader for you all throughout the journey. Because if you don't
some days
have
I'm
that,
like, am I crazy?
yeah, there's been plenty of those times where you're like, oh my gosh, I have somebody else's baby inside of me.
I'm like, did
Or
we really
you're
do
like,
this?
babe, I don't want to do anything. I'm so exhausted.
Yeah.
And so you just have to have kind of, you have to have a team, even if it's two people.
Yeah.
Have a team to go through it.
So we talked about like physically how you, or what the journey would look like in answering your questions, emotionally, what it would require of me. And I know there are questions, it's kind of taboo to talk about, but the financial side of it, of surrogacy, it's standard in the US in most states to compensate for surrogacy. And so a lot of times people want to know, well, what, in a sense, what's in it for you? Like, you know, other than doing something out of the goodness of your heart, what else do you get in return? And so there is the compensation side of things that, you know, this is a long process for us and our family. For this journey in particular, it's been since July 1st, but since the start of us pursuing surrogacy, it's been June of 2018. And so it's required a lot of appointments, a lot of time and emailing, calls. And so, you know, sharing all the details from compensation to physically the shots, the appointments, emotionally, so that they know ahead of time what you're getting into, what it's going to entail, and what you get in return, if that makes sense, other than just being super thankful for helping a family.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot to it. So, but yeah, our heart was to help a family, but not to say that there aren't some who don't do it for the financial side of it. Like I said, single moms, there's one that I know who's about to do her 4th journey, and another one's about to do her 2nd journey, and they're able to provide for their family in return of helping someone, and it's viewed as a partnership. You know, both sides are helping each other in a way. And so having the support of somebody else, of, you know, intended parents, it's like pregnancy in general is hard. And then when you do surrogacy in a pregnancy, it's just there's just so many moving parts. There's so much to it. So
yeah,
I think it was helpful.
I think people, like you said, go into it for different reasons. Some of it go into it to create an income for themselves or their family. There's people who do it for like a loved one, a sister or a cousin or someone in their life that can't have a baby. And then there's people that just do it because they feel like they're supposed to.
Yeah.
And like that was really us.
Yeah.
The financial side of it wasn't ever like the motivating factor. Even going into that, we decided that we weren't going to come up with a number that we needed. We left that up to the intended parents, and we said, hey, we just let them come up with a number, and we discussed privately that no matter what they came back with, whether it was like inside of the window of like what's normal here in the US, or if it was under or over, like we were just going to say, hey, whatever they come up with, we'll agree to it. And so there's so many moving parts. There really are. And you need to have people around you that are supportive, and you know, you might have to step away from some relationships that aren't supportive, like friendships or social media, if it's going to affect you negatively. But that's where having a partner through it makes all the difference.
If you've seen a lot of our content, we are strong in our faith, and so we share a lot about how having a peace about something and praying about things. And so wherever you're at in life, just make sure that you feel good. You feel at a good place about it. And so with us, I had to feel a peace about it, he had to feel a peace about it, and we had to feel almost like, you know, confirmation from the Lord that this is what we're supposed to do and this is how we're supposed to move forward. And so that would be our encouragement, is feel in a place like that for yourself, but then also for the person who's the closest to you, because it will just make the journey more smooth. And having the support is really helpful.
Well, and all throughout the process, there's going to be things that you don't fully understand why they're happening. Like for us, we jumped into the whole process of like applying to be surrogates and then trying to get paired with people, and it just didn't seem like anybody was the right match for us. Like we went and sat down and had dinner with people face to face, and it just wasn't a right fit. Like they had certain views that we didn't agree with and that we weren't able to hop on board with, and same thing on their end. And so we're like, why are we being called to do this when it doesn't seem to be working out at all?
But trusting the Lord, trusting the process, and because it's not like I was naive going into it that, oh, I got pregnant easily and my labors were easy, so this is going to be easy. But our first journey, if you saw, my lining wouldn't thicken for almost two cycles, but then the intended parents actually got pregnant naturally, and so like God worked everything out. It was great. But having someone to be like, oh my gosh, what is happening? I thought we were supposed to do this, was really nice. So
yeah, altogether, I mean, how far in are we from probably that first conversation?
With
it's got to be.
Theirs was October.
No,
1st.
From our first conversation about
June
doing it.
2018.
Yeah, so 4 years.
Yeah, almost 4 years.
Yeah.
Look where we are now. We're
Little
32
growing.
weeks along. Actually, 33. Thursday was 33 weeks. So keep following, because these next few weeks are going to ramp up, and you're with me through it all.
Every bit.